We're ready to start. Let me introduce myself. My name is Kim Schneider. I am the Communications Specialist at Hempfield School District, and I want to thank everyone for showing up for tonight's Q&A with our middle school team, our principals, and our counselors, and they're available for you to answer any questions. We ask that you submit them through the chat. If you have a specific building question, you can designate it for Centerville Middle School or Landisville Middle School. If you have just a broad question, we'll toss it to both schools or the counselors at both locations to best answer you. The format is going to be pretty quick in this little brief presentation, and then we'll get right into the Q&A, and I will be answering every one of you as you're asking your questions, just to let you know that I have received them. We do have information about contact, who to email, who is your contact at each location. I will also follow this up tomorrow in our 4 p.m. blogs with the recording. So this is being recorded, and you will see that recording plus that contact information again if you were to miss a slide. So if there are no other points to make here, I guess we'll just move on to the introductions.
I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Lisa Muma. I'm the principal at Centerville Middle School.
Hi, I'm Bill Ackerman, the assistant principal at Centerville Middle School.
Hi everyone, I'm Nate Milton. I'm the school counselor for the incoming 7th graders at Centerville Middle School.
Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Doug Dandridge. I'm the principal at Landisville Middle School.
My name's Patrick Conrad. I'm the Dean of Students at Landisville Middle School.
And I'm Steve Sharp. I'm the school counselor for the 7th graders at LMS.
One second. All right. Sorry about that. I just had some audio glitch there. I wanted to share some resources that we have both shared out already or that we will be using this spring to help guide this transition from 6th to 7th grade. We know it's a critical transition, possibly one of the most important transitions during your public education career. And we really spend a lot of time and energy trying to get you as comfortable as possible with the middle school before you even set foot in our walls. So both Centerville and Landisville have put out a video last week. We would have normally shared that information during our 6th grade parents evening. They are a little lengthy, but we're trying to communicate a lot of information to you. So the links are on the screen here for you. They have been pushed out through the blogs. I hope you take a moment to watch them when you get a chance. They do contain a lot of good information. We will answer any questions on anything that was shared in that video or follow-ups that you have after watching that this evening. Typically in May, we would then be bringing all the 6th graders to LMS and CMS for tours. Those dates are listed on the screen. Obviously, we can't do the tours in person this year. So we are working hard on creating some activities, some videos, and probably another similar Zoom meeting like this for each of the schools, where the 6th graders can see some pictures of our building, some of the places that they're going to be going day one, and get some of their questions answered. So we'll have more information coming out to you on those dates, but you might want to highlight those on your calendar for the transitional meetings. And then in August, we always have our sneak peeks and our orientation tours. The 18th is our evening event, which is at 6:30. And then on the 20th, August 20th, is our sneak peek during the day. That one is always a popular one because all of our teachers are in the building. So if you have your schedule, you can actually walk the schedule before school starts on the 25th, see your teachers, make a quick connection, and get comfortable with the building. We will have a lot of other activities and information pushed out to you through the spring, but these are some that we wanted to highlight before we even got to this evening's program. And with that, I think we're going to turn it over to the question and answer. As Kim said, she is going to moderate the questions and throw them out to the group. We're probably going to, even if it's a building specific question, we might answer it for both buildings because there are other people in the audience that might have a very similar question and want to hear the answer for both sides. So we'll probably give a CMS answer and an LMS answer for most of what's being pushed out this evening.
Okay, so I have a nice list and I'll just start right at the top. How does pickup work for car riders? But I think it'd be great if we just went over pickup broadly. Doug, do you want to start?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So at Landisville Middle School, our morning drop-off is in the stadium parking lot. So we share our side parking lot with the stadium, if you've ever been to one of the football games. So all of our buses drop the students in that loop. If you are a car rider, we have a defined loop inside the parking lot where students get dropped off. We really ask that you follow that loop for the safety and security of all the students and staff who might be in that parking lot. I realize as the year goes on that people are in a rush in the morning and sometimes we're late. We will get you into school, I promise. But unfortunately, that parking lot has like 5 entrances. So if you cut the line early just to get an extra 10, 15 seconds, you really could be putting someone else's safety in jeopardy. So we ask that you follow the loop, drop the student off in the side parking lot, and then they just walk in the side cafeteria doors, and they in the morning will either go to the cafeteria or the gymnasium, depending if they're eating breakfast in the morning or if they are just joining us in the gymnasium until we dismiss them through the school. Important to note, on the very first day of school, and we will share this with all of our 6th graders, all of our incoming class, the 7th graders, will all go to the cafeteria the first day, whether they're eating breakfast, not eating breakfast. That's all you have to do is walk in that side door, turn right into the cafeteria, and we will take you from there. So that's what you need to know the first day.
And as far as Centerville Middle School is concerned, we also have a specific traffic pattern. In fact, in the video that we sent out earlier, there is a map that shows you the traffic pattern. We want everyone to come in the shared entrance between Centerville Elementary and the middle school. And that's for student pickup and drop off. When you drop your student off, you go to the back of the building and there'll be signs there pointing you that way. There's a loop that you can drop your student off. Doors open at 7:10 a.m. every morning. And the buses drop our students off right in front of the building. We ask that no drop off from parents take place in that area because of the buses and the faculty and staff coming into the building every morning. Just like LMS, for the first school day, everyone will be going in the same entrance. The 7th graders usually just kind of follow along like little ducklings to the 8th graders. They walk in that main door to the auditorium, and all of our students will congregate in the auditorium first. And then our teachers will come down, they'll announce their classes, and then they'll take their individual classes to their classrooms, and we're off and rolling.
I just want to, we talked about in the morning, in the afternoon, at 2:40 with dismissal at Centerville Middle School. If students take a bus home, all the buses are lined up out in front of our building. So students would exit the front of the building to get on the bus. If they take a car home, they would exit the back of our building near the auditorium to wait to be picked up by a family member.
And to add on to that, at LMS, at dismissal, students that ride the bus will exit out the front of the building onto the buses. If students are car riders, they will go to that initial drop-off point that Dr. Dandridge mentioned by the cafeteria lobby, and our cars line up there to be picked up. Now, in LMS, we do have some students that walk, and those students we require to take shuttle bus to the high school. They will be assigned a bus, and then at the high school, they can disembark and walk home from there.
Okay. So one of the questions that keeps popping up is, what time does the day start and what time does the day end?
I can explain that. It's the same for both middle schools. Our day starts at 7:28 in the morning. So our doors open at 7:10. We encourage students to get to school, you know, as early as possible. That way they have time to get to their lockers and into their first period class by 7:28. And then dismissal is at 2:40 p.m.
With that being said, the learning never stops.
Okay, and a few questions here about how can we get information about fall sports and other extracurricular opportunities, such as student council. And another person was specifically asking about soccer. So maybe just a nice overview of all of those extracurriculars if you wanted to start, Lisa, since you're on.
Sure. I would keep looking at our website, go to the athletic page. Our fall sports start the week before school begins. We had the date on our video. Was it, Nate, do you remember that? August, I
17th.
forget what
It's August
the
17th.
first day of practice, the 17th?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So watch the website. I would also encourage you, once school starts, that your son and daughters listen to the morning announcements closely, because all of our clubs and activities that occur within a school day, we announce how to get involved with them over the morning announcements.
In addition, if I could add in there, Lisa, if they are planning to participate in a fall sport, they will need a physical that is dated after July 1st. So if there's a physical before July 1st, that will not count. That information, like Mrs. Muma said, check the athletic department website for those forms, PIAA physical forms, and make sure you have a physical after July 1st.
Actually, it's June 1st, after June 1st.
Okay, June 1st, thank you.
Yeah, yep.
And the piece that I'd like to add on as well, when you're asking about how do I stay informed about clubs, Mrs. Mumo is absolutely right. Have your students listen to morning announcements. But if your kids are anything like mine, I ask them what they did at, during dinner, during the day, and they say, oh, it was fine. You might not get the most thorough answers from them. I highly, highly, highly encourage you to sign up to our building emails. If you go to the website and choose Landisville or Centerville Middle School, on the opening page is a place to subscribe. It says subscribe, you put in an email address. At our schools, we do student announcements every day. The transcript of those announcements are pushed out at 4 o'clock through email every day. It's a great way to stay informed. You'll hear things about, specifically, I know it was asked student council. So when we're ready to start having our elections, or if there are other clubs that are coming up, or just general announcements, that is by far one of the best ways to stay informed with your school.
Thank you very much. Okay, we got a couple questions about lockers. When will students have access to lockers? What if someone forgets where their locker is when they're already there? If you want to talk about anything surrounding lockers, that would be great. Maybe, oh, great. Nate, you can start.
So this is usually the #1 concern of incoming 7th graders. So this is a really common concern and question. So for lockers, they will be assigned right before the beginning of the school year. So your final schedule will have your locker number and your combination on it. So usually even with the sneak a peek tours, you won't have your locker yet. It's usually that first day. Now the thing is, on even the first month, the whole year, we have keys that we can open your locker. If you're really struggling and you're really having a hard time with it, just flag down a teacher, look for me in the hallway, Mrs. Boomal, Mr. Ackerman, and we'll be glad to just come on over, open up your locker, and send you on your way. I also, the teachers will often pull me aside and say, hey, this person's really struggling with their locker. Can you give them a little extra practice? And then I'll pull the student in maybe between classes or just for a little extra practice. So don't have to worry about the locker. One thing that we talked about in our transition lessons back in March was the fact that if you wanted to, you could see if you have one of those combo locks at home and you could practice a little bit, just so you get that the practice of how to open a 3 combo lock. That's one option you can do. It sort of eases a bit of anxiety. But even if you don't, beginning of the school year, you're going to get it, and you'll be really surprised by the end of the first week or second week. Be like, oh wow, that was a thing. Like I didn't even know I wouldn't. That was difficult for me at one time. So you'll get it.
At LMS, we'll have dedicated time during our first few days to go over and practice, working in our lockers. In addition to that, you'll have staff members available, just like Mr. Milton said. And in addition to your locker combination and locker being on your schedule, you'll also find a copy of it located in PowerSchool for you to access as well. If you really need, Mr. Conrad does this really neat trick with the credit card, but you'll see more of that in August.
I would like to just talk about lockers for a moment. It is certainly one of the greatest questions, like Mr. Milton said, that we get from our students as they're entering our halls. There will be lots of time for practice. You will get it down pretty quickly. I always talk to our incoming 7th graders during the first week. Please, please, please do not share your locker combination with friends. There are many reasons for you to keep that private. In middle school, friendship groups change quite a bit, and sometimes your best friend one week is not the week following. And if you've given out your locker combination to someone else, they now have free access to all of your belongings. So please reinforce with your son and daughter that they should not share that locker. We will have lots of teachers, counselors, principals, deans, students in the halls to help them out until they're very comfortable. Most of our students, by the end of the 2nd week, can open that locker in 15 seconds flat.
Thanks, everyone. So another question that's sort of twofold is about homeroom. Can you talk about if there's a homeroom and what does that mean? Do they have specials in their homeroom? And then when will folks know what homeroom or classes they've been assigned to? I think it's sort of a all-in-one. So Mr. Dandridge, if you want to start.
Sure. So certainly a middle school schedule is a lot different from an elementary schedule. We do have a homeroom first period. So homeroom and first period are combined. So once you get your schedule over the summer, and those usually come out in August, once you get your schedule, that first period class is also your homeroom class. That's where attendance is taken. That's where you view your announcements. That's where we do the Pledge of Allegiance. That's where we start the day. And then each student from there has a schedule with a 7-period day, with lunch, with flex at the end of the day, which will look different from the person who's sitting right next to them. So in elementary school, your schedule is usually very similar to the homeroom student sitting next to you. In middle school, it is very different. So everyone has a different path. Teams, it's generally stay in the same hallway, and that's how we build some small communities for our students to feel comfortable in a bigger school. But while you might have math first period and history second period, person next to you might have math first period and then be going to ELA second period. It'll be different. We spend a lot of time walking through the schedule and getting familiar and comfortable with that schedule, just like lockers during the first couple weeks.
CMS, did you want to add anything, or are you feeling good on that?
We do the same thing at Centerville Middle School. We have the same schedule as Lanesville Middle School. Our students do spend a lot of time in homeroom when we run special schedules, especially those first couple days. So they will build a special bond or relationship probably with their first period teacher. That's what I have to add.
Okay, great. And did I miss when students will know what classes they have? That was another question.
I
Yep,
can
this,
answer.
go ahead,
Go ahead,
Mr.
Doug.
Newman.
Um, both Mr. Dandridge and I use the summer to schedule students, and we usually finish the process late June. That last week of June, students should expect to get a letter in the mail with their schedule. And what they truly have to remember is that first period teacher. When they come in that first day, we will at Centerville Middle School gather in the auditorium, not the cafeteria, but we gather in the auditorium, and their first period teacher will walk them to their first period class. So once they get that schedule in the mail in July, end of July, we just need them to remember their first period teacher.
And this is different than the letter that some folks have received about course placements, correct?
Correct. That was just what classes they were recommended for. When they receive the schedule, it will be specific that period 1, you have this teacher, this subject in this classroom. With a lot more detail, they'll receive a schedule.
And then with that course placement letter, there are a few follow-up questions. Some folks want to know if these are the only classes then that are available in the fall, or are there other options?
Yeah, at the middle school, we operate on primarily a year-long schedule. So for the core classes, including math, science, history, and ELA, they'll run from August to June. Our classes like PE, health, and music are semester-long classes. So PE does run the full year for most of our students. Some might have additional enrichment during that time, but health and music are run by semester. And then art, family, consumer science, computer applications, and technology, those all run by quarter.
Okay, and then I think we did ask how is it that students can sign up for certain courses? There are a few that are interested in languages specifically. Do they get to pick their language? How does that work? Rep, do you want to go first?
Always, happily. Yeah, when it comes to it, the place that our rising 7th graders have the choice to select their courses is only in music at this point. I think as a middle school team, we very much value the enrichment opportunities when it comes to world language and a lot of other curricular opportunities. And we continue to think of different ways to design our schedule to meet those students' needs. But for the 2020-2021 school year, the only selection students can make is with their music selection, and off of that maybe band, course, orchestra as well.
Okay, and then how many levels are there for each subject?
I can answer that. Math, we have 4 levels in 7th grade. Algebra 1A, we have a pre-algebra accelerated, pre-algebra A, and a Foundations of Math 7 class. So there's 4 levels in math. For ELA, there's 3 levels. There's an advanced ELA 7, just a college prep ELA 7, and a foundations ELA 7. All 3 levels have a double period of ELA. And then both history and science, there are 2 levels. There's an advanced science level and a college prep level.
Okay, this is a detailed question. How will you determine who goes into the Remediation Math and Ela course since there was no PSSA this year?
That's a great question. We do work really hard to make data-informed decisions, and we have actually taken a formula of data points from previous years' PSSA scores, from course grades, from benchmark tests that we've given throughout the year, our grade test and our math CDT tests. And we try and formulate where we think a student would be placed. But we know numbers are just numbers. They don't tell the whole story. So a critical piece of course selection then is involving the child's teacher. So all of your sixth grade teachers have reviewed that data profile and have told us if the data is mixed, they said the student really, we feel, would be properly placed in this course. If the data is very strong, that they should be in one course over another, the teacher will usually just confirm that unless they see some real inconsistencies in the data. So it is a multi-tiered approach. We look at lots of different factors. We would have used the spring PSSA for summer data review. So this year, our summer data review will look a little bit different. It'll be a conversation between ourselves, the administration, the counselors. We will loop in the teachers as we can over the summer, and then the families to really just make the best placement. In the middle school, we believe in flexibility. If we get into the school year and we think we have made the best placement for your child and things aren't working out in that first month, we're going to work with you to make any changes to make sure that they're going to be set up for success.
EMS, anything to add, or you're feeling like you're ready to move on?
I don't have anything to add. We're very flexible also and fluid. If I highly encourage any parent to call us or email us. Don't hesitate should they feel that the beginning of the school year started and their son or daughter was not placed in a correct class.
And this is just a follow-up to that. If someone were to want to discuss the placement of their student, would the school counselors be the best place to begin for that?
Yeah, so the letters that went home this weekend gave a link that we're asking all families to go to. And on that link, you either confirm that all the placements look great, or if you have questions about any of those placements, there's a notes section, and we ask you to fill that survey out. Certainly, our counselors are great resources, and they will field those emails. But that survey really collects all the data in one place for us when we start working on it this summer. So it'd be very helpful for us to have it. Outside of that survey, though, in this initial course placement window, your counselors are absolutely the people that you would want to email to have any kind of discussions about schedules.
Mr. Milton and I are always happy to field questions and support families in any aspect of the transition. I was answering questions today for families about course selection. With that being said, the elementary school counselors are going to have the ready access to both the data and the teachers to help to provide a more comprehensive response to any questions as far as course selection.
And a few questions about how much homework should the students expect each night?
So,
Boy,
okay.
God.
So I take it? Okay, so I'll just start out. There is a jump in rigor from 6th to 7th grade, and it's intentional. We are pushing children to grow in their abilities, and at the same time, there's that balance of knowing how much can a student do, right? So the one big change from elementary to middle school is that time management piece. Students have a flex at the end of the day each day where they're able to get work done. And so a lot of students get much of their work done during that 40-minute period and also the time that's been offered in class. It also depends on what time of the year it is. So there's going to be bigger projects in ELA and in science. And so at those times of the year, there could be more that's going home compared to just being able to get it done in class or in flex. So it all depends. I can't say for sure of a set time period that they would expect to do, but it will be more than what they have in elementary school. That's for sure. You can expect to have homework pretty much each night. I should say that.
LMS, did you want to add anything, or are you ready to move on?
I'll just add on and jump ahead because I see a related question with that. During flex, that flex period, 40-minute period at the end of the day, after period 7, students go back to their respective flex teachers where they do have a time to complete homework, but that's also a time where students may be pulled from one of their core teachers to work on things that they missed out on or make up work or anything like that, of that nature.
Okay, and to be clear, for those who don't know, students don't have recess, but they have flex. So is flex considered study hall time? What is flex?
That's what I was getting at there, Kim.
Yeah, so.
Well, there is a recess, and at lunchtime, as long as the weather is nice, after lunch, now students have a half hour for lunch. They get to get outside for 10 to 15 minutes after they've eaten their lunch.
So,
Great.
and I'm sorry, is it okay if I just add on to the flex piece is, I just want to stress the fact that using that time wisely at flex is really important. So starting the year consistently, getting to work right away, using the whole 40 minutes for that, not seeing it as necessarily free time, but work time, it really does a load of good. So I would really encourage students to take advantage of that.
Okay, and a question here. What's the difference between college prep and advanced, and which one is more difficult or challenging?
I can answer that. So our advanced level, we are expecting students to learn new skills at a faster pace. We are looking for good readers and writers and analytical thinkers for the advanced class. The advanced, but when I went to school, if that's not clear, when I went to school, it was the honors level, is what it was called.
And I'd say that the one of the key characteristics that are different is the independence level. The expectation is much more independent work in the advanced level compared to the college prep level. So just the expectation of taking responsibility and sort of running with things. There's still support from teachers, but it's a little bit more hands-off compared to the college prep level.
I do want to just circle back to I know Dr. Dandridge had mentioned it previously, and we had highlighted in some of the pieces, the data points that we use, the course that your child currently is not part of that data profile in and of itself. Like, we look to those recommendations to make sure that we're meeting your child at the readiness level. And readiness means it's a class that they could be most challenged in and still be successful in. And those are what we feel are the big wins when it comes to learning.
Thank you. And just a few other questions here. Is the science fair still happening for 7th grade? Are all students expected to participate in it, or just those in advanced life science class? Mr. Dandridge, did you want to start?
Sure, yeah. So science fair has been an important part of our advanced life science class in years past. We are changing that requirement for next year. We will still have a science fair. It is not a requirement for the advanced life science class any longer. So the teachers are working hard to really have some different project-based learning experiences for students of all levels in our life science classes, but the science fair itself will not be a requirement of our advanced science class any longer.
Okay, and can anyone speak to the band, chorus, and orchestra? Will chorus be in place of every flex? Can anyone talk about this a little deeper?
We have a 6-day cycle at the middle school level. And so both chorus, band, and orchestra, those groups meet one day out of the 6-day cycle. So if a student chooses to have chorus during flex, they would have chorus once every 6 days. Students they're held, chorus and band are held, or chorus and orchestra are held on separate days of the cycle. So if they choose to be in both chorus and band or chorus and orchestra, that would take 2 of the 6-day cycle.
And just to add to that a little bit, our music classes are the area where you have choice. So while the full chorus ensemble will only meet once per cycle, one of the students' music choices might be vocal techniques, where they're getting individualized instruction with Ms. Stewart as their music class. We also have our string techniques for many of our orchestra students, or we have our brass, woodwind, percussion techniques for our band students, essentially. So while the full ensemble meets once per cycle, those other classes meet every other day for a semester. And in some cases, in some of the cases, you can even choose an additional 22 days.
Continuing on schedules, how does gifted support class fit into schedules?
Our gifted teachers normally will work with our students at least once, 1 day per cycle to provide enrichment and some other learning opportunities. And then you'll also see that they'll be pushing into classes to support students in some of those classes, particularly our advanced classes.
Okay, and if someone wanted to talk about the differences between the 4 math levels, is that something we would do online or offline? I'm not sure how detailed that would get.
Well, I'll just add, yeah, I don't want to get too much detail here because it might get a little bit lost in translation to the full audience. But the course selection guide is listed on our website, and it will be, if it's not already, pushed out to students' iPads. So I encourage you to go to the website and look at the course selection guide. It discusses each of the different math courses, as well as any of the other levels that you might be curious about. Beyond that, while we are certainly happy to answer questions, we also have some very talented department supervisors who specialize in that subject area, who can also speak to that. So in particular for math, that's Mr. Mike Milan. His email address can be found on the website. And if you have questions beyond what you heard here, what you see in the course guide, he would be a great person to reach out to as well.
And would you suggest the same for if anyone has a deeper science level question, to go to that department head and discuss that perhaps with them, as they are the expert?
Absolutely. And you can certainly reach out to us and we will answer a lot of the questions. At times, if it's very content specific, we might direct you towards the department supervisors. But they're a great resource. They love supporting our students and are happy to engage in that conversation as well.
Great. A question about lunch. Will positive lunch funds be transferred from elementary to the middle school?
Yes.
Easy.
That's a great succinct answer.
My school bucks is district wide, so yes, those account balances do continue.
Okay, I have a lot of course selection questions about languages, about levels, and understanding flex. So when it comes to course selection questions, who is the best person for folks to talk to at both buildings regarding their placement and regarding their course selections?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
You're always welcome to start with the elementary building school counselor. They have all those data sets and can also get direct feedback from the teachers. They're also completely welcome to reach out to Mr. Milton or myself with any questions. Generally speaking, again, we use a composite of all the data sets that we would use to make a course recommendation have already well occurred before the school closures, which include PSSA scores, which are like lemons, PVEST data, which is like lemonades, a more distilled version of all the testing data, trimester 1 grades, and then in addition to that, our local data, which is the CDTs or the grade plus, and teacher recommendations to complete that picture. So we do have all that data already in there to guide the recommendations for the students for whatever is their readiness level. And then in addition to that, Flex is, again, it's a time where students can have time to do schoolwork, But what's unique about different than study hall is that none of our teachers teach during that time. So they have access to get direct support from any of their teachers that they need.
Thank you. And another lunch question, can you pack a lunch?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have lots of lunch choices. We have usually two main lunches, which are published on the lunch menus that the school provides. But we have many packers who bring their own lunch every single day. At LMS, at least, we have a microwave you can use, which students are always very fond of. But we have lots of packers as well as buyers.
Yeah, we just asked in any of the microwavers that you're responsible with your popcorn popping, because burnt popcorn in the cafeteria, not the worst, but still unpleasant.
We also have microwaves at Centerville Middle School.
Great. And I have a question again about drop off and pickup. If someone who's in middle school rides with a sibling who's at the high school, someone's asking, how does that work? Any comments on that?
I can answer
Sure.
that.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Conrad.
In the morning, the older sibling from the high school can drop off the younger sibling in the car loop line outside the cafeteria lobby at LMS. That's the parking lot Dr. Dandridge referenced between the LMS and the football stadium. And at dismissal, the LMS student will then take the shuttle bus to the high school, and he or she will be able to meet up with the older sibling there and go home in the car.
Great. Another lunch question. Do you have to sign up in the morning like in elementary school, or do you just select the student lunch period?
Good question. I'll take this. No, you do not sign up. As Dr. Dandridge and Mrs. Mua mentioned earlier, there are a variety of lunch choices, and students just go to the cafeteria and get in line when they're dismissed to get their lunch.
Thank you. I have a few questions about if my child doesn't want to take chorus, band, or orchestra, or a different type of elective, can they drop out or change these?
I can take that one. So yeah, absolutely. They do not have to participate in chorus, band, or orchestra in their 7th grade year. So if that's a situation that it's been assigned, or if you see it on that course selection sheet, just cross it off, saying that you're not interested, and it will be removed from their schedule.
And just to clarify, because I'm not sure the full question there, band, chorus, and orchestra is something that can be dropped. The other exploratory classes cannot be dropped. So every student will be taking art and music and phys ed and health and FCS, computer applications and tech ed. Those cannot be dropped. They're required in our state standards. So all of our students will rotate those, but band, chorus, and orchestra are optional during flex.
I should also add one other thing about the music class, that if a student chooses percussion techniques, that's the specialized band course, or the specialized string techniques, or vocal techniques, if they choose that and then change their mind at the beginning of next school year, we cannot take them out of that course. Oddly, that sort of dictates their schedule. So it's really important that if they decide that they're not interested in chorus or band or orchestra, and that specialized music course, that they want to decide that now, because they won't be able to get out of that or change that in August. Okay, so it's just important to make that distinction.
Just one thing to add, Mr. Milton is right about all those things. This year we are taking our responses via the Google form, which is offered in a short link in the letter that was provided.
And just continuing on the music theme, are there lessons for the children to learn instruments? Someone asked.
If a student is already in one of the performing arts and already has an instrument, then they'll be doing some skills instruction when it comes to the specialized music class, like string techniques, brass, woodwind, percussion, and the other vocal techniques. They don't need to learn an instrument for vocal techniques, just to be clear. With that being said, if a student does not have any previous musical experience, I would encourage them to reach out to, at this point, I'd probably encourage you to reach out to either Mr. Milton or myself, and we'll put you in touch with the appropriate music department supervisor, and they might be able to provide you a list of people who provide private lessons to help to get your child up to speed.
And so switching back to lunch, can you speak to where students keep their lunch in the middle school?
So if a student chooses to pack their lunch when they arrive to school, and when they go to their locker, we encourage them to put their lunch and their backpack and their coat in their locker. The class, you know, when they're dismissed from class and before they head to the cafeteria, they'll have a chance to stop at their locker to pick up their lunch to take to the cafeteria.
Great, thank you. I have two specific LMS questions that I think Mr. Conrad would be great to answer. One of them is, are children at LMS permitted to ride bikes to school if they are assigned as a walker?
Yes, they can ride their bikes. There is a bike rack at the entrance to the cafeteria lobby, and we ask that they park their bikes there, and we'll make arrangements for them to go home. At dismissal time, they will wait back until all the buses leave, and then they'll be allowed to go.
And then one other sort of dismissal parking question. If your high school student parks in the quad lot at the high school, can the LMS student safely walk to and from this lot to the school?
No, actually, they would take the shuttle from LMS at dismissal, the shuttle bus, and they would go to the high school. And then from the high school, they would then walk to the quad with the older sibling.
In the morning, if they're dropped off at that parking lot, they can walk over to the cafeteria entrance. But in the afternoon, we do not allow any students to walk from LMS to the quad lot or to the high school, mainly out of a safety concern. So Mr. Conrad's absolutely right. All students will shuttle over to the high school and depart from there.
Okay, and I'm going to toss this over to CMS to start. Let's talk about backpacks and bags. Can you carry a backpack through the school? Can you carry a bag to and from as well, your classes?
I'll take that. We ask that all students put their coats and their backpacks in their locker at the beginning of the school day. They're able to visit their lockers in between classes to get the books they need for the next class, but we do not allow book bags to travel with the student during the school day. It's a safety issue, along with, when you think about it, if you have 25, 30 students in a classroom, add 25 to 30 book bags, it gets to be pretty packed in that room. So they do not carry their book bag with them during the school day.
Okay, and switching it up, are students supposed to shower after gym class? Are they showering in locker rooms after gym class? LMS, did you want to kick us off?
Generally speaking, our students actively participate in gym class, but do not shower after gym class. We do recommend that they do bring a change of clothes, which would be standard shorts and a t-shirt. Any color will do, but we just ask that it be plain. So black, white, red. It can have Hempfield on it, but nothing that would be, I believe Mr. Conrad refers to it when he wears it as his rocker wear.
Okay, and a couple classes or questions about cell phones. Can cell phones be on students during the day? What is the cell phone policy? Can we begin with Lisa, if you want to start with cell phones?
At Centerville Middle School, we ask that when students arrive at school and they go to their locker, that they put their cell phone in their locker and that it stays there till 2:40. We do not allow cell phones during the school day.
Yeah, very similar at Landisville Middle School. I mean, really, those personal cell devices can be a distraction in classes. So that's why we ask students to keep them in their lockers. You know, as you know, we have iPads in all of our student hands from K to 12. So anything that they need to look up on the internet, they can certainly use the iPad for. We do recognize the need for parents to communicate with their students. So in the morning in the gym, before the school day started, they can have their phones on them, they can communicate, and they can certainly check messages for us midday and then at the end of the day. But they should not be outside of those lockers otherwise.
And I should add too that if a student needs, they forget their lunch or their instrument, they can just do it old school. Go down to the office, make the phone call home, and it'll be fine.
Going back to bags, can you clarify, are purses allowed to be carried to and from classes, or is this limited to backpacks? And can people stop at their locker anytime if they needed to get something and if they couldn't bring a purse? Mr. Dandridge, do you want to start?
Sure, good question. So students, there are times when they can have a small bag on them. So one of the times might be if they're going to phys ed class. You know, oftentimes our students have those cinch sacks, which are good. We do have students who will carry clutches or small bags if they need for making runs in the middle of the day to the restroom. But they should not be carrying large bags with them throughout the hallways, and purses generally fit in the larger bag category.
Okay, and how big is the average class size? CMS, do you want to answer?
Sure, I would say average around 24. We have some classes, you know, as high as 28, 29, and then some classes that run 17. Depending on which level or what course that we're referring to.
And I would say those numbers are very similar at LMS.
Okay, and then are there any summer reading assignments? And if so, when will they be received?
What has happened in the past is our 6th grade guidance counselors would share the advanced ELA summer reading assignment. I would imagine that would be the process this spring, but we have not clarified that at this point moving forward.
That information is also posted on the website in the ELA department page as well. There is a summer reading assignment for, I believe it's our advanced ELA class that they review then during the first weeks to month when they're in school. They have a follow-up assignment based on that reading.
Thank you. What options are there for students after school if both of their parents are working? I believe this is aftercare question. CMS, do you want to kick us off?
Unfortunately, we don't have an aftercare program at the middle school level.
And that's the same for LMS as well.
Okay. And are there any field trips? LMS, do you want to kick that off?
Yes, we do have an 8th grade field trip at the middle level. So the students they raise funds over the 7th and 8th grade year, and that culminates in a larger class trip in the 8th grade year. We do have individual trips that we take with certain smaller groups of students throughout the year. sometimes to our VOTEC schools, to our trade schools, to different organizations out in the community. But in terms of a large class trip, that is the 8th grade year.
And that's the same with Centerville Middle School.
Okay, and then I have a transportation question. Do we need to notify the school if a student is normally a bus rider but will be a car rider at the end of the day, not necessarily at the first, or any transportation changes like that? How would they best be communicated?
As long as the student knows they're to be picked up by a parent or guardian at the end of the school day, that's the only communication they need. Obviously, if it's during the school day, they'd have to come to the office and sign them out. But after the school day, the student just has to make sure that they know whether they're riding the bus or they are being picked up.
And I think that's a great question and a big change from elementary school to middle school. When we're talking about the responsibility that are placed on students in elementary school, the announcements are coming on and telling you every bus that pulls up to the front door, and make sure you're on the right color bus and number, and all of that responsibility shifts to the students in the middle school. They are to know their bus number. They are to know if a parent is changing and picking them up at the end of the day. Similarly, a related piece would be students coming into our school. In the elementary school, you would walk your child in the front door and sign them in. In the middle school, you can send them in, they can sign themselves in. We will not release your son or daughter to anyone, so you still have to be there to sign them out. But there is certainly a different level of responsibility at the middle level that was not the case in the elementary.
With all those things, again, we appreciate our collaborative relationship. So if you need to get a message to change things up with your child's transportation, please don't hesitate to reach out to our main office. And in addition to that, if you're dropping them off, you're always welcome to come by and say hi.
I have a few coronavirus type questions. One of them is, what are we doing to keep schools clean for when we get into school in fall? And if we are allowed back into the schools this summer, are we still going to try and get a tour in during the summer instead of the virtual tours? So I don't know if you want to address either one of those. CMS, do you want to kick off?
Sure, and this is a time or a topic that we don't always have the answers right now, and the answer I may give you tonight may change tomorrow, but we do have those two tour dates in August 18th and August 20th. So if things open up prior to August at Centerville Middle School, I would encourage people to make sure that they attend during those 2 August dates. How are we keeping the building clean? Right now, no one's in it except for our custodial staff. We at Centerville Middle School have 3 custodians, and they are rotating responsibility so that they're not in the building at the same time. We have not discussed as a district plans moving forward or what the fall looks like as far as the safety of our students or safety of faculty and staff.
Yeah, I would say our custodians are doing a wonderful job cleaning the building. The building's probably cleaner than it has ever been. With no students or staff in the building, the custodians are having a field day keeping it clean. We really are blessed with some wonderful custodians. They have tackled a lot of different tasks for us over the years, and they stepped right up to the plate in this crisis and really worked hard to disinfect and clean the school and keep everyone safe in the same process. So I know that we will continue to follow all the local guidance that we receive from the government, from the health organizations, as to when we can bring people back safely. And once we do that, we'll make sure that we have all the procedures and protocols in place to make sure that we continue to have a safe environment for students to learn in.
Thank you. And I'm presuming this also includes whether or not students are wearing masks to and from the school. We'll have to wait to see those guidelines from our governor and so on and so forth. That was another question. I have a few different letter-specific questions, meaning folks who got their letter who have questions about what's listed there, want to make changes to what was listed there, or there's something that's missing. Whom should they be in touch with? Is this, again, their principal? If they want to make changes, if they think something's missing, if they are not at the right level. Can you reiterate that again?
The best and easiest way for them to provide feedback is there's a short link on the form that they can go click on. It'll open up a Google form. Families have been doing it throughout the day, and they can go in and make any requests for any adjustments from there. That's going to be the easiest ways. But as always, feel free to reach out to your elementary school counselor, or if need be, Mr. Milton or myself.
Yeah, I'd just say before you put in to make those changes, check in with the school counselor at the elementary school and sort of get the background of what motivated that, or what was the reasoning behind it, because that could help to inform your decision too. And then please do fill out that link. That'd be great.
Okay, so that concludes all of those questions. One last food one. Can I transfer the balance from my high school student to my middle schooler in my school bucks?
I don't know if that's a transfer or if that's a ask for a refund. You get refunded and you may have to deposit the money back again.
Yeah, I don't 100% know that answer either, so I'd have to explore that one a little bit.
Okay, so that concludes any submitted questions at this time. Did anyone want to have any closing remarks?
Sure, and I don't know, I'm hoping that the PowerPoint slide is visible to the you all are extremely and take ownership of your son or daughter's experience that they'll have in 7th grade. We encourage you at any time to call or email us, especially if you still have questions to ask. On the PowerPoint slide here, we have our phone numbers listed for both middle schools and each of our email addresses. All of our email addresses, just like at elementary level, it's the adult's first name _ last name, and then at hempfieldsd.org. I'm not sure, I tried moving our pictures off to the side so those Landisville Middle School families can see LMS's office phone number. So that is 717-898-5607. And then Bill? You're still muted, Bill?
There we go. On behalf of CMS and LMS, we just want to thank everyone again for your flexibility and all of the work, the efforts that you've done at home to support us during this challenging time in the world's history, really. These are challenging times, but rest assured that both the CMS and the LMS families and the faculty and staff have been working really hard to make this transition from 6th grade to 7th grade as smooth as possible. You know, they call it middle school for a reason. We really are the bridge between the elementary and the high school levels. We understand how important that bridge is. We take it very seriously, and we are absolutely committed to making sure that your son and daughter have a smooth transition as they get ready for the next step. So on behalf of CMS and LMS, we want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. If you have any other follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to any of the school counselors or the principals at your respective buildings, and we will certainly get back to you as soon as we can with an answer.
Right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone. Thanks.
Good night.
All right.
Thank you.